the Bobo, Ryan Tillman. Let him have it. Savage on the set. AJ. What up, boy? Ryan Tillman. Let him have it. Savage on the set. Oh no, it's the Bobo, Ryan Tillman.
Yo, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of It's Needed the Podcast, where we discuss real issues involving law enforcement in the community. It's your boy, Ryan Tillman, founder of Breaking Barriers United, and I am joined by the light-skinned wonder himself, Mr. Oh No, it's the Popo. What's up, buddy?
Yes, sir. What's the word, brother?
Oh, nothing much. I'm laughing because we got the Savages here, but the Savages in the background with Lil Savage Jr.
Savage Jr.'s here again, guys.
They try to keep him quiet, so it was
Savage Jr. is almost here more than the actual Savage is.
He is, man. It's big time Billy, man. His son ain't too big time. Oh, man. We also got another special guest, man. This has been a true pleasure. We've had guests on like the last 3 or 4 weeks, if not more. And so it's a true honor to have with you guys, my friend Shea Degan. What is going on, Shea?
How are you guys?
I said the last name right? Correct?
You did, yeah. You pronounced it spot on.
Okay.
He said it kind of fast just in case he messed up. He was like, I'm going to say you, Junior.
Hey, don't try to expose me what I'm trying to do. You know how I knew that. So Shea was telling me a story. I stayed at Shea's house a few weeks ago, and he was telling me a story about somebody that Shea is a police officer, and a while back Shea had pulled somebody over, and he tried to act like he knew Shea. And so he was like, "Oh yeah, man, where's that guy?" I mean, you tell the story. I'm over here trying to tell a story for him.
He was speeding. I pulled this guy over, and he goes, "Hey man, would it help?" I get his driver's license. He goes, "Would it help if I mentioned, that I knew somebody in the police department?" I go, "Well, it really depends on who it is and if I like him or not.
Right.
And that may or may not get you out of the ticket." And I go, "Who do you know?" And he goes, "Shea Degan."
Oh yeah, been there.
Shea Degan. He goes, "Man, it's a dude I work out with all the time at the gym. We're good lifting buddies. Known him for a long time. Shea Degan." And I looked at him and I almost started laughing. And I thought, I think he's serious. And I've got my nameplate on my uniform. And I go, "Hold on, I'll be right back." I go back to my cruiser and scratch out a ticket. I thought, this is pretty pushy. And I go up and I hand him the ticket. He goes, "Oh man." He goes, "You must not like him." And I go, "No, I like him." I said, "Because it's me." And he goes, he did this thing, and then he held us. He goes, "What's up, brother?"
You're like, "You don't know me."
The whole thing, and then he starts laughing. He goes, "Man, I figured I'd try." I tore his ticket up. I thought it was so funny. I had tears coming out of my face. I was laughing. My favorite part was that he tried to play it off. He's like, "What's up, brother?"
Oh, man. You better than AJ, because AJ probably would have wrote his butt a ticket.
Yeah. I've had that happen before. I've had people tell me stories about me. I just let them go on like, "Man, Johnson crazy. He be doing X, Y, and Z." I'm like, "Dang, what? For real?"
Tell me more.
I'll be right back.
Press hard 3 copies.
That's it.
But anyways, it is a true pleasure to have you on, Shea, man. We really appreciate it. And just so you guys know, I met Shea actually on Instagram a few years ago, which is cool. And that's the world we live in nowadays, is you can meet anybody from anywhere. And so me and Shea got connected and really just became really good friends. I got to go stay with him a couple of weeks ago, which was a phenomenal time. That's why you guys can see I'm repping my 88 Tactical hat along with my 88 Tactical shirt. I almost wore the same shirt that Shea has on today. And we actually kind of got the red, blue, and red, white, and blue vibes going on. Wait, how was yours up in July? Shea, I don't know if I'm gonna send you guys videos. Matter of fact, I'm gonna send it to you, AJ, right now. You can watch it while we're on here. But Shea, 88 Tactical hosted fireworks at their place yesterday.
Yeah, third annual fireworks show, and it was. The thing grows and grows every single year. I want to say we had probably 12 to 15,000 people show up this year.
Oh, wow.
It was insane.
Nice.
To the point where they're lined up the street all the way down. There's a pretty decent, probably a quarter mile long street. They'll line up on both sides, and then they were stopping on the highway on both sides of the shoulder and the interstate. We're right at a highway and interstate intersection.
Nice.
So last year there were several accidents. This year I think we avoided them. But yeah, it was a huge turnout.
Yeah, I heard causing accidents. Local police like.
Oh yeah.
Right. So it's funny. I'm like looking at his page while we're like waiting for the fireworks show, and I'm looking at the 80 Tactical guys are looking like, bro, their fireworks show is insane. Like somebody said it lasted over an hour.
Yeah,
and I was like, that.
It was like
yeah.
2 years ago. It was an hour and 45 minutes. We told the guy he's an employee of ours. He's one of our membership sales guys. and he's an absolute riot. And the show that he put on, he used to do in his backyard, and he asked if he could do at our place 3 years ago. So we said, okay. You know, it was running around with a blowtorch and lighting this stuff. And this year, it was getting a little out of hand. So this year it said, hey, the only way we're going to do this is if you have an electronic system set up and it's a digital, you know, so it's a hell of a lot safer. So we bought the system and knocked out of the park. We had some technical difficulties, but outside of that, it went off pretty well. But there's a point where, like the grand finale, it's like every fireworks that we had on the concrete is shooting off at the exact same time, and it's just the sky is on fire. It's insane, but it goes on forever.
Nice. That's what's up,
Man,
man.
hey, AJ, check it out. I just sent it to you right now on your Instagram. Liddell, what's going on, man? So, hey, before we get into the topic, I had to share this funny story with you guys in light of 4th of July. So I don't really barbecue much, or grill much, but I can. You know what I mean? AJ, you looking at the fireworks? Yeah. So I don't really do much grilling and stuff. But anyways, I was like, if I need to, you know, I can do what I need to do, man. I'm an athlete. So
yeah, I was already gonna say
inside joke. So anyways, my wife was like, hey, can you grill some hot dogs and hamburgers this weekend or whatever? I was like, yeah, no problem. So we went to my mother-in-law's house, and so she's looking at me like, bro, you don't grill. Like, are you sure you can do that? I'm like, yes, I got this. It ain't that hard. Like, we solid. It's propane, light it up, we're solid.
Oh man.
So anyways, I get there. And you know, first of all, like when we get to my mother-in-law's house, like the propane had went out. So my mother-in-law was trying to start it, and she was like, I don't know, like I think the propane is out and stuff like that. And I was like, you know, let me take a look at it. So I'm looking at it. Then there's another propane tank sitting on the ground. So I put that on there, and sure enough, it fires right up. So I'm starting to feel myself now, like, yeah, you know, your boy got this, handled that.
The grill. Look at me.
Look at that. I'm figuring out problems right now. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead and bring me those burgers and those links over there. Let me throw these bad boys on here. So anyway, I get it, right? So I throw the burgers on there, and I throw the bratwurst on there. So as I throw it on there, you know, I put it on there, you know, put the little cover down, let it sit for a little bit, and I go back inside talk. And so I come back outside, and bro, this thing is like smoking big time. So I open it up. Bro, flames is just going everywhere. I'm like, oh, snap. So what happened was the grease from the brats start dripping down and start spiking that fire up a little bit more. So my wife comes out there, and she's just looking on it, like got this look on her face, like this fool about to burn the house down. And I'm like, no, we good over here, babe. We got like
whole arm on fire.
Panic.
Bro, in my mind, I was so nervous. I was like, do not mess this up. Because I was over here talking all this trash. Like, I'm good. We got it. She over here where I was like, you better not mess these things up. So I cut off all the little igniters or whatever, trying to get this thing going down. And she was like, everything else, oh, yeah, we good. We good. I just had to turn it off.
It's supposed to look like that, babe.
900-degree, you know, fire going on.
Don't you know this is how you get the good burgers and the good dogs right here? It's supposed to look like this. If it ain't flaming like this, you ain't know what you're doing.
Yeah,
so
the tree is supposed to be on fire, babe. Trust me.
Are carcinogens supposed to be good for you?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyways, needless to say, we finished it. The burgers came out bomb. My son came out. I was like, "Dang, Dad, this burger is bomb." I'm like, "Yeah, you know, your pops did that."
Pops, okay. So you ordered
put him below $5 bill underneath the table. Like, oh man. So, anyways, that was a funny story, but I don't want to get too sidetracked because there's a lot of good stuff to talk about today. Unless y'all got any other funny stories that we need to. All right, cool. Let's bypass. All right, so let's do it. Let's jump right into it. So again, I talk about this. Shea, I met you about a couple years ago, and I really was impressed with a lot of the work you're doing. So once you start following me and I start following you, I start kind of looking into the business that you got. I was like, wow, like this is a phenomenal organization. So then I start digging more and start figuring out, like realize like, man, this is next level training stuff. And one of the biggest topics in law enforcement right now is law enforcement officers don't have enough training. And so when I start peeling the layers back of 88 Tactical, I was like, man, this is the real deal. So then fast forward, I go to your house a couple weeks ago, then we go take a tour of the place, and I'm like, my mind is just completely blown. I'm like, I've never walked into a facility like this. And the best thing I could equate it to, and this is going to do it a disservice, it's almost top off, but for like cops and military. It's like a playground for for cops and military, as well as families, like anybody that wants to come in and learn. And so I say that I laid it as I laid it as the foundation of this conversation. Like, tell us who you are, how you got to start 88 Tactical, And I kind of mentioned earlier that you are a police officer. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kind of get in.
Yeah, I kind of have. I mean, without boring everybody to tears, born and raised in Omaha, Nebraska, and then I always did poorly in school and just did not do well. So I falsified my report card when I was going to college. I went to the University of Nebraska in Omaha, right here in Omaha. And I ended up getting F's and was placed on academic probation for a semester. My parents decided they'd pay for my tuition for 4 years as long as I went to school there, which is a great deal. My older brother and younger sister went to Creighton University, had free tuition because my mom had worked through faculty. But anyway, long story short, I end up failing out the first semester. They put me on probation. The second semester, I fail out again. So they put me on suspension for a full year. So I had to lie. I had to make up something to my parents as to why I didn't want to go back to school. I falsified, made it look like I had C's and D's because I had to make it look realistic. Because I put A's and B's, they'd be like, "All right, you're full." Something's up. It was back when I had carbon copies, and I had completely dating myself, and I had a typewriter. Put in the typewriter, I put D's and a couple F's to make it legit. So then I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to join the military. And it was between the Marine Corps and the Coast Guard. And at the time, and it's kind of funny because Top Gun is out now. Top Gun was a big movie at the time. And I was like, I want to ride a Ninja. I want a motorcycle. I want to ride down a pier, the ocean. That's so cool. So I ended up the Coast Guard, went on a buddy system with a guy and went through port security school, law enforcement firefighting school. And I just joined the reserves. And that was a law enforcement bug that absolutely bit me. And immediately I was like, this is what I want to do. So when I came back to Omaha, I went back to the university, studied criminal justice, never finished up, but knew that I wanted to become a cop. So I had tested for multiple agencies, and then finally got hired by the county seat for Omaha, which is Douglas County. So OPD, Omaha Police Department's I think they're about 750, 800 sworn. Douglas County at the time was probably about 125, 130, the sheriff's office. So I got hired, worked as a road patrol deputy, and then I got into the K-9 interdiction unit, narcotics division. So I worked the interstate for years, going after fugitives and drug smugglers and all that good stuff, and absolutely fell in love with it. Well, most cops will work off duty to supplement their income. I was working some off-duty gigs, and I just noticed that, it was discombobulated, and you didn't have like one voice that was going out there and setting up these contracts to benefit the cops. So you had some at the time, it was like $20 an hour, some at 25, some at 30. And I was like, if we had this concerted effort, if there was one voice, one group that would go out and establish these contracts at all these quick trips or convenience stores and some of the other locations, movie theaters and that kind of stuff off duty, we could really kind of up the ante. We could really start collecting maybe $30, $35 an hour and get what we deserve, get what we're owed. And one thing led to the next. I started hiring cops off duty, and I had a little bit of a margin there and started making a little bit of money. And I'll never forget the first check that my ex-wife and I had received. It's like a $600 check. And that was the whole amount. We made like $40. And I'll never forget, she walked in, she high-fived. She's like, "Oh my God, we're rich. $40." And I was mind blown that I didn't have to be the guy who was out in the field working, and we made, $40. So fast forward 3-4 years later, my security company called Signal 88 Security is doing a College World Series. We did it 7 years in a row. And then it's I'm in a new house mowing, and she holds up a check. We got it, and it's a $900 and some odd $1,000 check.
Nice.
For a 10-day contract that was just loaded down with police officers and civilians. So I started Signal 88 Security in 2009, and I realized that there was no technology that was embedded in security. And this is really kind of the start of cloud-based programs, real-time web-based systems. So I started a software company called Lyconic with a couple guys. And really and you guys know this, you're only successful as the people you surround yourself with. And I certainly am no expert in any particular area. I just am good at getting other people who are extremely talented in other areas and creating this team of people and driving forward and making it a huge success. So I brought in a couple of guys who knew how to develop software because I didn't know the first thing about developing software, and told them, hey, here's what my vision is. This is what I think would really help the security industry and would really give my security company a huge edge over the multi-billion-dollar companies like G4S and Guardsmark and Securitas. So we took off, and that thing just it enabled us to beat the crud out of the competition. It was like taking candy from a baby, and we started getting these major contracts. Well, then the idea popped into my head to franchise it. Nobody had franchise security for whatever reasons. I don't know if somebody tried it and they failed, and I was pretty stubborn, still am. I was like, I think my mousetrap is better. So I partnered with a guy who knew how to franchise and offered him ownership. And we took, that was in 2008, and grew that company. And then as we were growing that, my local Signal 88 security company had a training division. It was back in 2009 when the state of Nebraska passed a concealed carry permit law. So Trevor Thrasher, who Ryan, you've met, and AJ, I don't know if you met Trevor when he came out.
No, Billy met him, but AJ hasn't had a chance to meet him yet.
Ex-Omaha police officer, just retired as a Green Beret Special Forces 19th Group, National Guard, just an absolute stud. We've been buddies almost 35 years, and then he and I work for a small agency now. Still. So Trevor had written we call him the tactical mad scientist. He's the one behind all of our curriculum because he's had an opportunity to experience violence in the police realm as a SWAT officer for many years, and then in combat overseas, being deployed 3 times as a Green Beret. And I don't think you've had Trevor on your podcast yet, but
no, we'll have him next.
Yeah, he's amazing. The guy is extremely sharp and tactically driven, and really, he's the brilliance behind all of our training programs. So Trevor had written that program. It was really the first course that we had come out with, and people took it and they loved it. And they were like, "Hey, what about a handgun course, like a level 1 or level 2?" And I was like, "Hey, let's create that." And I start kind of grabbing guys that I knew, and we start building these other courses. And they were, "Hey, what about a carbine class? How about precision?" And they start realizing, we're using this farm. This cruddy farm with a crappy berm. And I was like, if we're going to do this, we got to do it the right way. So I started looking for land, and I bought 160 acres, about an hour north of Omaha. In fact, I took Ryan up there when he was in town here a few weeks ago.
Sick.
Yeah, beautiful place, lodge, cabins, house. It was pretty run down when I bought it. So I sunk a ton of money, a ton of time, my time in there, going up there every single weekend, doing all the landscaping myself and building things out with another guy. So then things really started getting crazy. We started getting a large group of, hardcore followers, and they kept asking for additional courses. And I started realizing, it's an hour drive up, and if we do an hour an 8-hour class, you got an hour drive, 8 hours, and then you got another hour. It's 10 hours, and it takes up half your weekend. And I wanted to start doing bite-size 3-4 hour courses. Trevor wanted to create those classes. And I said, why don't we start looking for something in Omaha that we could put up, we could erect. It was just going to be a shooting range. And one thing led to the next. It went from a shooting range with a retail space to, what about a rappelling tower? How about a 70-foot rappelling? That'd be cool. Yeah, throw that in there. And then it was, what about a restaurant and a bar? And why would you put a restaurant?
Oh, man.
Let's do the restaurant and bar. Well, we had a cafe downstairs. So we start adding all these things. And fast forward to now, we've got what's called the Founders Club. It's a restaurant and the bar. It's a retail down the floor. We've got classrooms for all the classes. We teach over 60 classes. We have a 24/7 fitness center, a beautiful fitness center that's all part of the membership. We are doubling the size of the building now. It should be done in November. And then we're adding, and Ryan, you don't even know this. We were just discussing this today. We're doing a huge swimming pool, indoor, outdoor swimming pool, like water park for kids inside.
Literally, when I was there, I was like, the only thing this place is missing is the pool. And hey, man, I need a percent for that.
Credit for that.
of the revenue. So we're doing the swimming pool, and then we've got ice skating rink, and then with fire pits, right? Because there's really not a whole lot you can do in the wintertime around here. Now, sub-0 degree temperatures is a different story. You're not going to want to be outside, but if you got fire pits and we have concession stands and all that fun stuff, and then pickleball courts, and then kind of a live concert green space AstroTurf area. So we can do live events, comedians. We could do MMA fights. We do just an assortment.
Well, just checking out all the boxes.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's a bit of a unicorn, to say the least, compared to any other shooting range out there. And there was kind of a movement toward these country clubs, but we want a lifestyle. It's a facility. It's a community that we've created at 88 Tactical, and we got a ton of members now. It just continues to grow. So.
Right, it's insane. Now, Shea, are you privy to talk about the expansion or not yet?
Yeah, no, I can talk about it. Yeah.
So, can you just tell us about the expansion? I when I was there, you were talking about how you guys are expanding to different states, which I thought was phenomenal. And like in everything he's saying, guys, it is legitimately that. It was one of the coolest places I've ever been. I'm not just saying that because Shea's my boy, but it was super cool, man. And not only that, but just the environment was so cool. There's good vibes and stuff like that. So just can you briefly talk about the expansion?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that, right? So we've got the expansion going on right now. We're 27,000 square feet in the Omaha market, and we're doubling the size of the business, the building. So we're adding 20 additional shooting lanes. We have 20 currently. We're adding 20, so we have a total of 40. And then our restaurant is 1,600 square feet. We're going to 5,700 square feet, and then adding a 2,300 square foot kitchen in addition to that. So it's more of they call it a gastro pub. I don't know what the hell that means. I think it's in somewhere in between like a sports bar and some fine dining. But we've got some of the top executive chefs working at place. Very fortunate. So in the expansion outside of the state of Nebraska, I was just out in Salt Lake City last week. We've picked out land that we're purchasing. If you guys have been out in Salt Lake City, right along I-15, perfect spot. I don't want to divulge the exact location at this point, but we're going to lock down the land, and that facility will be an 80,000 square foot facility with all of these amenities. So we're breaking ground at Salt Lake City here in the next few months, and then Kansas City, and then we have plans on 20 plus other locations. So Scottsdale, Tampa, Nashville, Dallas, Houston,
nice,
all over the country. Yeah.
That's crazy. And I tell you guys about the expansion because I want you guys, when you guys see an 88 Tactical pop up, I want you guys to know exactly what it is. And then the last thing, Shea, talk about the actual, the meaning behind 88 Tactical. Now there was a little bit of controversy behind this. And I want Shea to be able to speak to it because I'm a business owner. Billy's a business owner. AJ's a business owner, and our businesses become our babies and stuff like that. And so when people start, attacking you or attacking the work you're doing, it's not only is it a downer, but it's like, you know what, people don't know the blood, sweat, and tears we put into it. So you were under attack a little bit about the logo and the name 88 or the number 88, because there is some white supremacy tied to the number 88. And then obviously, but that's, so talk to us about how you came up with 88 Tactical. So that way you can, shut up all the haters out there that try to put you out of business.
In the bud, because people are still going to say what they want to say, and it's the nuke button, right? I mean, it's so easy to point the finger at somebody, call them a xenophobe or a homophobe or a racist and this and that. It's a nuke bomb. And we've heard it all. So Signal 88, as I mentioned, the security company I started, Signal 88 Security, I named it Signal 88 Security because in the state of Nebraska, Signal 88 in police code in the entire state, so Nebraska State Patrol, Douglas County Department I work for, Omaha Police, it means situation secure. It's police code that we use. I make a traffic stop and I don't get back on the radio and they're going to ask if I'm 88. Negative. I'm not 88 at this time. The cavalry's coming, right? So unfortunately, you go to other states, I think New York, Signal 88 means drunk and disorderly. And in other states, it means something completely different, right? So I created Signal 88 Security here in Nebraska because I wanted other cops to understand that this wasn't your stereotypical, security company with security guards, more of a derogatory where, they have 3 teeth in their mouth, 2 in their pockets, and it looks like they've ironed their uniform with a hot rock. It was extremely important for me to create a completely different level, a different tier, somewhere between a security guard and a police officer, almost like a cadet. So I named it Signal 88 Security, hoping that police officers would then say, well, it has to be connected to law enforcement, right? So when I sold Signal 88 Security locally to my franchise group, myself and my partners in 2013, I was then bought out. The franchise organization I created in 2015, we had about 370 franchises, and we were in 4 countries. So that company absolutely blew up. So I sold that business. So that footprint with Signal 88 was there nationally. We had hundreds of franchise locations. We're pretty well known. So when I sold the company, I said, listen, I have this training piece that is not part of the franchise model. I am going to unplug and I am keeping this. And I'm going to brand it as 88 Tactical. So that was one of the deals. In order for me to sell the company, they had to release that and allow me to use that. So that ended up happening, named it 88 Tactical. But then I've gotten grief. And it's like 0.1% of the population. You know,
if that.
Those are the individuals that scream the loudest, right?
Yeah.
And at the time, we had this Lincoln, University of Nebraska Lincoln English professor.
Always a professor. Always a professor.
Always a professor. And she called me a Nazi, said it's the 8th letter of the alphabet, HH for Heil Hitler, and this and that. I've heard it before, and I just try to let it roll off my shoulders. And I'm just like, you don't know me. It's classic that people immediately point the finger and can make a snap, judgment like that, and attempt to destroy somebody's life and business. So a bunch of people attacked my kids on their Instagram accounts. They had to change their names.
Jeez.
I made a video, and I was super nice about the video, but I said, it's really unfortunate that people can make these accusations, these horrifically damaging accusations without having all the proof. And I said, what people don't understand is a business partner of mine in the business who owns 45% of 88 Tactical is Jewish. Grandparents survived the Holocaust. And I said, wouldn't you think that he might know if he owned a Nazi-run organization? The bird is a bald eagle, but it's it's a German eagle, and it's red. The color red is apparently tied directly to it's.
Oh, they was coming for you hard.
My time talking about it because it's gotten so old and ridiculous. But people love to throw stones, especially as we continue to become even more successful. And then people who know us, they know better.
And only reason I wanted you to bring it up, Shea, is just because it's an inspiring story for me to where it's like, even when people throw shade your way, they try to knock you off your track. You figure out, you solve problems, you keep moving, you pivot, and you figure out how to move. And so when I look up to you, that's one of the things I see, man. It's a way to get through adversity. So if you're listening to this right now, if you're in your car, if you're a police officer or whatever, I mean, me and AJ have said it many times before. If you're doing something right, then people they're gonna come at you. If you're not doing, if you're not doing anything that's making change or causing a wave out there, they're not gonna say anything, and that's when you're doing something wrong. So I really appreciate you, Shea, for saying that.
Yeah, absolutely. You and I talked about it when you're here in town. And other cops can be absolutely horrible. And when I started my business, it was, hey man, that's awesome, high five. And then they turn around and you're getting bashed on. It's like, yeah, good luck. He's going to fail miserably. But I like we talked, Brian, it's one of those things where you use that as your rocket fuel. It's like the naysayers are the ones that push me to become even greater. It's like, I'm going to work that much harder, let them hate while you elevate. Nice.
Exactly. Absolutely right, man. AJ, do you have any questions, or Billy, you have any questions for Shea before we get into kind of like the topic for the podcast today?
No questions, man. I appreciate everything you're doing, and I really appreciate how you handle that adversity and those people just throwing like hate and shade your way. Like that is what really defines not only who you are, but like your future as well. And like you're handling that amazing. So I applaud you.
I appreciate
it's inspiring, Shea, man. Seriously, it's inspiring. Literally, I called you. AJ he had a situation he was going through a few weeks ago. I mean, it just seems like as you climb the ladder, sometimes, there's things that try to knock you off. And sometimes it comes from places where you least expect. It comes from people that you least expect to throw you off your ladder. And man, but just by maintaining, man, and just having that positive attitude, man, is super, super inspiring for me. And I'm sure those that are listening to it. So I appreciate that.
Appreciate that. Thanks, man.
So one of the things I want to do is I want to transition really quickly. I want to transition and talk about active shooters. Now, this has become a topic that is unfortunately becoming way more common than it used to be. There's been a lot of controversy behind it because there's a lot of people trying to point the blame on the guns. And then there's, people that, obviously want to point the blame at the person that actually did the crime. And then there's people that don't know what to do if they're ever caught in an active shooter situation. So we had the one in Uvalde. Obviously, we talked about that a few weeks ago. But we also recently had the one yesterday in Chicago, Illinois, which was pretty crazy. I don't know if you guys know the details of it. This guy, this 22-year-old or whatever, goes up on top of a roof and basically with a rifle just basically starts to shoot at people. Kills 6 people, injures, I think, about 30 people. The ages were from 8 years old to 80 years old. And so when we're talking about tactics, when we're talking about training, Shea, what are some things that you might be able to bring to the table for somebody out there saying, like, look, I like to go out with my family. Should I not go out? Or is there a way for them to be better prepared when they do go out? So that way, if this unfortunate circumstances just so happens to show its head, what do they do and how they respond?
Well, you can't be, you hear this all the time. You can't be complacent. You got to be cognizant of the fact that this stuff is just its reality. It's just what we're living in. It's the environment nowadays. I think it's imperative that everybody prepare themselves mentally and physically for any kind of an altercation. An active shooter situation. I don't know how many times we've said it's imperative. You walk into a restaurant, and as police officers, we do the same thing. You always sit in a corner booth, so you've got eyes on a doorway. You're checking, for exits within a restaurant or wherever you're at. You're always kind of pre-planning things. And I think people, aside from police officers, general public, really have to start adopting that. And it's really a sad state of affairs.
Yeah, and I don't think you can not be prepared enough. I think, I remember a few years ago when my wife and I had Disneyland season passes, we would go to Disneyland frequently. And every time we walk in the park, I would always say, hey, in the event that this happens, this is what we need to do. So I remember talking to Trevor Thrasher, and it's like, you always got to have a plan, at least some sort of plan. Because if you don't have a plan, when that moment arises, you're not going to you need something to fall back to. And if you don't have anything to fall back to, one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to go to flight mode, or fight mode. And for a majority of people, they're going to experience flight because you never prepared for it. Even, and I think I was talking to Thrasher about this, even the most elite of the elite, your Navy SEALs, your Green Berets, your Army Rangers, all of them still experience flight. But the difference between the two of them is that they just know how to snap out of it a lot faster. And two of the reasons they're able to snap out of it is, one, they've been inoculated to stress far more than you have probably. And two, they had a plan in their head. So they kind of expected the unexpected. And so, AJ, I mean, you talk a little bit about expecting the unexpected. I mean, as officers, we go on scenes, sadly, far too often where people just weren't prepared, man. They operate in this white zone where everything is all kosher, everything is good. And then something happens, they least expect it. Can people survive if they just mentally prepare for a situation?
Yeah, man. I think you guys are both hitting the nail on the head with this. Training is key. The saying, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready, could not be any truer. And when we're talking about training, just to kind of give you an example, when I was involved in my shooting, they brought me back to the academy staff. The training staff brought me back to the academy shortly after my shooting, and they wanted to learn from the situation because it was foreign, at least for what we were used to dealing with, because I shot somebody through a door, and they just wanted to take away things that way they could apply it to their training program and teach the future cadets and recruits that were coming through the academy. So they brought me in and they asked me, they go, hey, go into as much detail as you're comfortable with, but we would love to hear your take on your shooting. And all I could tell them was it felt just like a training scenario, because I had trained so much up until that point. When I was placed in that situation, instinctually, the training kicked in and took over. And afterwards, I was like, wow, that was just like a training exercise, not realizing while this was happening, my life was in danger. Other people's lives were in danger. Like I was using deadly force on somebody, discharging my firearm. So training is absolute key. And I feel like sometimes we get, officers could be negative people sometimes. I feel like sometimes like we find reasons to complain. And sometimes we complain about training. Oh, I got another training class I got to go to, or oh, I got this online thing I got to do. You never know what training will save your life or put you in a situation to save someone else's life. So we have to take it serious.
And you know what I think part of the problem has been, is the dogmatic approach to training, right? So in a lot of departments, they've got their own set crew, the trainers that really think they know everything there is to know about training.
Yeah.
We're seeing more and more departments feeling comfortable and bringing outside companies with experts, people who have been there and they've done that, and they take away that ego. And that's the most important thing, is put your ego aside, bring in the individuals or the company that know what's going on, can bring that level of skill and the experience to the training. That's imperative. We've said 1,000 times, you cannot control stress, but we can teach you to manage it. You can manage
it, yeah.
And oftentimes, you talk about this autopilot kicks in, that training. You need that time. There's that pause in between. Am I going to flee or am I going to fight? Right. And regardless of what the amount of time is, that helps you get to where you're going in however long. If the autopilot kicks in and you're used to training hard in an environment that's similar, you're going to succeed. You're going to prevail.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you anymore.
So let me ask you guys a question. And this is a very, very broad question. It's kind of hard because there's a lot of different things that you could do. But let's just say you're out with your family, at a parade, and you start hearing gunshots go off. I mean, what's the first thing that you guys are going to do? And I just, again, it's a very, very broad question because there's a whole bunch of things that you could do depending on your environment. But I'm asking that question because there's going to be people that listen to this. It could be a mom, it could be a dad. And they're like, man, what do I do? What's the first thing I do if I ever hear shots fired? Because the first inclination is to run. Some people get down. Some people freeze. So what would you tell that person? Like, what's step one to think about in your mind? Like, this is what we need to do. If we're ever caught in a situation where the stuff hit the fan and there's bullets are flying. Go ahead, Shea.
Yeah, the first thing I'm going to do if I'm with my family is my prerogative is the safety of my family. I'm going to look for immediate cover that is a distance away in the opposite direction of where the threat is, and I'm going to get them to cover, and I'm going to hunker down and protect them. If I have to, I'm going to bring the fight to the threat.
I love that. Now let's talk about the differences real quick between cover and concealment, because there are people that probably listen to this and don't understand what cover is. And so if you want to just break down the difference between cover and concealment real quick, so that way they know and they understand that.
Yeah, cover is something that's going to provide you safety from rounds, from bullets. A great example is a cinder block wall, depending upon what kind of rounds are being fired, be behind a concrete wall or a bush. A bush is concealment. It's not going to offer you any kind of protection from any incoming rounds.
Gotcha. Now, somebody said don't run the same direction as the crowd. Now, that is a good point, because you don't want to get that whole stampede idea going. So, and that kind of brings me up to my point is when I'm out with my family, one of the things I would do is I say, hey, look, if everybody's running that way, we got to find a place where people aren't necessarily running towards, and maybe get to a place where, like Shea said, find cover. Because the last thing you want to do is be that person that's trampled in the stampede, and now you're either, you got people. There've been people killed like that. They've been stomped down and all this other stuff. But AJ, what are you going to do if there's anything different from Shea?
Well, when I'm done screaming like a little girl, no, I'm joking. Shea hit it on the head, man. Like, my top priority is my family in that situation. So I'm gonna make sure that they are okay. Hopefully I could get them to a safe enough place where I know that they're safe and I could go engage that target in a safe manner, or at least put myself in a position to help the responding officers out. But I think about that scenario, man. Like, I go to a large church and I think about that scenario every Sunday I'm at church. And I hate that I have to think that way, but you absolutely have to think that way. And I've had those discussions with my family as well. Like, if me and my wife are somewhere and I abruptly walk a different direction from her, like, she knows not to follow me. She knows not to say anything. Like, she knows to keep walking. Like, we're not together. Like, these are conversations that I've had with my wife. So, I think if you are somewhere,
do you do that because AJ, because people know who you are type thing and you're afraid of being targeted?
Yeah. I mean, it's no secret. We live in a world where people want to get famous off of harming a police officer, or they have this anger and hatred towards law enforcement. And I just happen to be a very well known police officer. So yeah, absolutely. Especially when I was going through that situation in 2018, 19, you never know. Like, you never know what's going to happen when you're out in public. I've had people take pictures of me and my family at baseball games and walking through the mall and send them to me like, oh my goodness, your family's so beautiful. I didn't know you had a kid. And I'm just like, okay, like this is a little creepy, right? Like, I appreciate the support. They're not doing it to be creepy. They were just kind of like shell shocked, like, oh my goodness, there's AJ. I want to take a picture because I don't want to approach him. But at the same time, it kind of puts things into perspective. Like, hey, you don't know who knows you, you don't know who recognizes you, and you don't know what they're capable of. So you need to have like some sort of plan in place to where if something happens, you're at least doing something. You ain't following the crowd.
Absolutely. So last thing I want to talk about today before we hop off this podcast is I want to talk about guns. Now, I wasn't planning on going this direction, but why not? You know what I mean? Like there's so much, everybody dances around the topic. They tiptoe. You don't know who's anti-gun, you know who's pro-gun. But let's talk about it. It's funny. I got my 88 tactical shirt. I got a few guns on my shirt right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I think personally, you know, we talk about this idea of gun control. One of the things I've realized is that in society, we lack balance. Like, I feel like we can't have conversations that aren't balanced. Like, it's either you're polar left or you're polar right. And if we just found somewhere in between, I think we could actually make some type of change and move forward. And so before I became a police officer, I didn't know anything about guns. I think my dad had a couple guns, but I had never shot a gun. Now, as an officer, I own multiple guns and I carry guns. I have a gun on me right now. And so this idea of whether or not people should own guns or they shouldn't own guns, I mean, what do you guys think? I know right now, me personally, I think if we're talking about gun laws specifically, I think that we can try to put as many laws in place as we want. But what I realize is that it's not going to stop somebody that wants to cause a lot of damage from doing the damage.
Right.
So meaning that if I want to go out and kill people, let's say you remove the gun away from me, then I'll go get a van or I'll get a truck and I'll just mow people down. We've seen that happen. If I want to get a knife, I go knife people up. And so, not to say that we need to be careless and reckless with the distribution of guns, but my point is I think that we need to put an emphasis on tracking people, their behaviors, their habits, tracking their tendencies in order so that way we can avoid them. This shooter yesterday, he actually, there were multiple songs that were very concerning. He was a rapper and put out a song, a very, very concerning song. Actually, I'll repost it later, but it was crazy. So I think that we need to recognize signs that show that somebody's probably dealing with mental illness, or they have some type of stereotype that, hey, this person could go out there or I don't want to say stereotype, but a criminal stereotype that shows them, hey, look, this person could be your next shooter or whatever it may be. Now, the last thing I'll say is, again, I'm not negating the fact that we should have gun laws. I think there should be some. I think there needs to be type of balancing stick, some type of measurement to say, hey, look, this person should have a gun. There's no reason why certain people that have committed violent crimes should be able to get access to guns. There's no reason why there's no reason why a person should have a gun who's not willing to go train with that weapon. You know what I mean? I don't want to be around somebody that has a gun and has never trained with it, just because we've seen accidents happen. I just watched a video last week of some guy. So actually, it was officers. They were clearing a hall and an active shooter. I think this happened in 2019. And one of the officers accidentally discharges his firearm and shoots his partner in the stomach. And so my point is that, you know, if you want to carry a gun, there comes a level of responsibility. You should be required, but if we're going to talk about laws, you should be required to go train with that gun frequently. You should be required to have a membership at an 88 Tactical or somewhere where they can prove your efficiency with it. You know what I mean? Like those are common sense things to me that I'm like, hey, look, this is the balance. This is how we meet in the middle. If you want to own a gun, great. But now you need to go to a certain place and you need to get qualified every single other quarter. Somebody needs to prove your efficiency. You need to take psychological evals every other year or whatever, just to evaluate your psychological state. I think that's a good way to find balance as opposed to just saying, let's throw the baby out with the bathwater. What do you guys think?
I'll let Shea take over first.
Yeah, Ryan, I think you and I had this conversation when you were in town, and I'll tell you, this was probably 4 or 5 years ago. We were on a radio segment or whatever, and Trevor and I were just talking about how we had just mentioned that maybe it might be a wise idea to have some sort of a litmus test for individuals buying guns. You know, hey, listen, you got to go through the safety class, an hour, 2 hour long class, or whatever the case is, a free class, and we would offer it. 88 would. so it's not like we're trying to gain some sort of revenue off of this by pushing it, because I'm always very cautious with what I say because of the blowback. You get some. I'm a 2A supporter, obviously, all day long, as I'm sure the two of you are. But you get some people who are hardcore 2As, and they just go support us, and they just go nuts. They go nuts. You're not a 2A supporter if you're saying
that's Billy.
Shall not be
that's
infringed.
Oh, I mean, I get it, but I understand that if you give a little bit, sometimes the other side can take even more, and it's kind of the start of something that can be really bad. But the idea, it's a right that is afforded to all of us as citizens of this great country. But to a degree, it'd be nice if people were trained on the basic firearms fundamentals. There aren't just 4 fundamentals. We always say there are 5. Safe storage is one of them. Lock your weapons up. I was going to tell you real quick without getting sidetracked. My older brother sent me an article here, and I'll send it to you. 37 school shooters, school-related violence committed by those under the influence of psychiatric drugs. That's something that needs to be looked into. It's the psychotropic drugs associated with a lot of these school shootings. So I'll send you that article. At least
yes, please do. That's interesting. We get so fixated on the guns, and again, this is not. I don't want people to listen to this and be like, "Oh, you know what? He just wants everybody to have." That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that there are a lot of issues associated with these shooters on top of the guns. You know what I mean? And we fail to realize that we just like to go straight towards the guns and just say, "Hey, let's get rid of the guns." When it's like, well, let's look at who this person is as well. And the reason I said it is I had a conversation with a gentleman a few weeks ago, and he's like, "Hey, we need to get rid of assault rifles. This and that. There's no reason to have an assault rifle. Yada yada yada." And I said, "Do you own a gun?" He said, "Yeah, I own 2 guns. I own 2 handguns." I'm like, "Okay, so if you own 2 handguns, then why do you own those 2 handguns?" Well, for protection. He's like, "Okay, cool. So can I still go out and do the same amount of damage with a handgun as an assault rifle?" He was like, "Well, I don't think so." I was like, "Bro, if you have somebody that's trained with a handgun, they can go out and do the same, if not more damage with a handgun because it's so concealable." The point is that we want to spend some more time focusing on the type of guns and the guns and this and that, as opposed to focusing on the people that are obtaining these guns and trying to keep the guns out of their hands. Yeah. Go ahead,
Ryan, you posted a video, and it was actually the first time I saw the video, but since you posted, I probably saw it like 6 times. And I think you just posted it today, and it was the one where the car's driving down the street, shooting like automatic fireworks at people. Yeah, that's a wild video. Like I thought that was like a movie
like
set.
Gotham. It looked like Gotham. It looked like Batman.
Shay, have you seen this video?
I did. I saw it. Yeah, I just saw it today.
So it blew my mind, and as I was watching the video, I literally thought to myself, like, wow, if somebody wants to hurt another person, like they're gonna do it no matter what. Like no matter what, they're gonna harm another person.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I was 12, 13, 14 years of age, my cousins and I would get on 2 sides of the street and have
Roman candles.
Yeah. But that was like
that's next level. So for those of you who haven't seen this video, I don't even know what type of firework this was, but I mean, it was like rapid fire, like Rambo shooting like fireworks, like the big explosion type of like downtown fireworks at people, and people are running down the street, and it's just like, so you know, I immediately thought that, and not to kind of go down this route, but you know, I'm a big hip hop head, right? Like I listen to a lot of hip hop, and I take pieces of hip hop from songs. I'm like, ooh, I like that. You know, I live my life by this, right? Or ooh, I relate to this. And there's a old song by a group named Clips, and he starts off the song. He says, "I got guns because they got guns. So you ain't about to go take away my guns, because I know a lot of people who got guns that shouldn't have them. So I'm gonna use them the right way. I'm gonna protect myself. I'm gonna protect my family." And you know,
that's what freaks me out. We saw what happened in Ukraine. Like, if you think about what happened in Ukraine, they were giving people guns just to be able to fight. And I think that, you know, we get so low to sleep. I don't want to sound like some conspiracy theorist or anything like that, but the thing is like, how far off are we away from that happening in the United States? If slowly but surely, it's like the old idea of putting the frog in the pot. You know, you start turning it up a little bit more every single time, and the next thing you know, the frog is dead because he didn't even realize that the temperature just kept getting heated up a little bit more. And so,
yeah.
it freaks me out to know that, they take away all the guns. Well, how do we defend ourselves? One of the main reasons why a lot of countries will not invade the United States is because they know that people have guns here.
They got to get through Kentucky first, dog. You got to make it through Kentucky.
They know that. And as funny as it is like they know that if they invade, not only they're going to be dealing with our military. No, they definitely not taking
Cali. Cali gone. They got Cali.
We'll welcome them with open arms. On that. Yeah.
I mean, you might be right about that.
So let me I don't want to say stir the pot, but let me play devil's advocate just really quick. And Billy, I want you to chime in on this, right? So the people say like, well, I want a rifle. Yeah, he had to turn the camera off for this. Billy been waiting for this.
I turned the camera on.
So a lot of people say I need certain weapons to protect myself, to form a militia to take over the government. That whole thing, right, Billy? We tracking each other right now. Oh, you broke up. Can you hear me?
No, we're good.
Yeah.
Oh, you just okay. So at what point do you think it's too much? So like, should I be able to go to the store and buy like a rocket launcher?
Why you ask Billy that? Because Billy got
I just know Billy, he's ready for this. Like
I'm not some like weirdo. Like I don't like he was saying the extreme Second Amendment guy. I'm not that guy. I'm more of the
I'm not that guy yet.
I don't want the government to tell me what to do. And my son is yelling at me, take me off.
Okay, this is cute. Well, I guess my question is like, what's the line? Like, I feel like everybody's line is different, right? Like, do you think you should be able to buy a fully automatic rifle just willy-nilly, right? Do you think you should be able to go buy a jet, a tank? Like, there has to be like some sort of line. And that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I'm not a huge gun guy. Don't get me wrong. I've got my fair share of guns. I like them a lot. Like, I enjoy them. I carry everywhere I go, no matter where I'm at, no matter what I'm doing. Like, I have a gun on me. I'm very well trained with them. But for me, like, there's a line, right? And I'm just curious, like, where is that line for some people, and why?
No, I definitely think there should be a line. Like, I don't think that it should be all willy-nilly. Because there's just certain people how many people do we know like that person should not have a gun at all? Like there's people that we know like that person definitely shouldn't have a gun. You crazy. You crazy.
I see him walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah, whatever. But I guess that's the debate. That's the debate. And the only reason we got on guns today is just because there's a lot of stuff going on in California. They just passed a few CCW. Well, one, they actually expose everybody's CCW's information here in California. So if you own a CCW, they actually exposed, it was a leak of all your information, your address, your home information, your phone number, all that stuff. Excuse me. Yeah. So that was one thing.
Advertising. We know they got guns.
Yeah. And then what's interesting though, what they also did in California, they also made an amendment, I think, to the current CCW laws where before you had to have a valid reason to obtain a CCW, you had to get proof or a reason. They threw that out. Now you no longer need a reason in order to obtain a CCW.
In Ohio, it just passed. You don't need nothing to conceal.
Well, that's like it is in Nebraska, right, Shea?
No, constitutional carry did not pass here, but in some states it has.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have your CHP, your concealed handgun permit. You have to go through an 8-hour course. The topic is stipulated by the state of Nebraska.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, yeah, like I said, I didn't want to get sidetracked, guys. I just thought it was interesting to talk about because people
Ryan trying to get people canceled. Let's talk about politics and religion and gun control.
Yeah, but you know what?
Go ahead.
What I was just going to say is that you guys know as police officers, you have 1,000 what ifs. So prior to, I don't know about you guys, but for me, there was a period of time where I was a cop for quite a few years before concealed handgun permitting came out, before there was legislation allowing people to carry concealed. So the only people who could carry concealed were police officers at the time. And the vast majority of us were for citizens being able to carry it. But we were kind of like, listen, you're going to have to go through some sort of training, some legitimate training. An 8-hour course, in my opinion, that's why we offer so many additional courses beyond CCW. Like we have a course called Beyond CCW. It's the decision-making process that is the most important part of it, right? So how many times did you have your hand raised in the academy saying, okay, so if I'm carrying off duty and I see this or I see that, at what point can I draw my firearm?
Yeah.
You don't know. The experience is what really gives it to you, right? So it's always blown my mind that people can go through an 8-hour course and they're blessed, go out on the street, carry concealed, and know the right circumstances when that gun should be unholstered, right? And not handle certain situations. So I applaud the people that would go through our reality behavior-based scenarios, and they would have a better understanding. I mean, how many people you talk to like, dude, if I'm in a convenience store and I'm carrying concealed, some guy comes in with a handgun, and he's going to rob this one right there, I'm going to hose everybody down.
Yeah.
I'm going to hose them down, I'm going to be the hero.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of crap that happens under extreme duress, right?
For sure.
Explosion, loss of peripheral vision, you go from that more cognitive, decisive decision-making part of your brain to the monkey brain, fight or flight, crap hits the fan.
Yeah.
Your dexterity goes down the crapper, and people don't understand until you put them in those scenarios, and then they're fumbling like crazy, or they realize there was another bad guy who was standing behind them, and the repercussions are getting popped with TM rounds.
Yeah.
It's a rude awakening for people, you know?
Right. Yeah. Mike Tyson said it best. You know, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Exactly.
How many of you guys have been on the firing line with somebody that was next to you? You were like, man, this guy's about to kill me. Have y'all ever been there?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We had a guy who was a deputy with us we called it the unit. He had the fake hunk of driftwood on the top of his head. He looked like a dead beaver. And he literally, we were training with shotguns, and he turned and swept everybody. He had 30-some years, pointed it at like 4 or 5 of us. We're all dropping to the ground.
That's how you catch one of these right here.
Yeah, we're like, Harry's got to be done. He's got to be done.
Well, we'll take one last question before we wrap it up. Should police officers be able to disarm citizens that have a CCW on them during an interaction? How is that not a Second Amendment infringement if legal? Personally, I personally, unless they have a reason to, it depends on how the interaction. There's a lot, like Shea said, there's a lot of what ifs in law enforcement. I've had people tell me, hey, I have a CCW, I'm armed. And if I'm just doing a traffic stop or whatever and write a ticket or whatever, I might tell them to keep their hands on the steering wheel, and I might write the ticket at the window as I'm talking to them or whatever it may be, and then send them on their way. If I have to do anything beyond just writing the issue them a ticket or something like that, then yeah, I might actually take their firearm away from them, because it goes beyond the Second Amendment infringement at that moment in time. It comes now to an officer's safety. Just because you have your Second Amendment right, that's all good and dandy. But at that time of the stop, my priority is to make sure that we all make it out of this thing safe. And so I will remove that for now. Say, hey, look, I'm going to remove your gun. Once this encounter is over, then I'll go ahead and, I'll put your gun over here. You can grab it when you walk away or whatever. But I think our safety comes priority at that moment in time when we're dealing on the stop, especially if I know you're armed with the firearm. You guys got anything to add to that or anything different?
Spot on.
Yeah. I mean, if we're detaining you, like we already have the legal reasoning to detain you. Therefore, if we see the need to disarm you, then we will. But a majority of times, at least in my experience, it's a traffic stop. Where we pull somebody over and they're like, "Hey, I got a gun on me." Okay, where is it at? It's on the right side of my hip. Okay, do me a favor, don't reach for it, don't grab it. Don't be making any crazy movements. Go ahead, get your license. I'm gonna go to my car. I'll be right back. And that's, it's simple, and it happens more times than a majority of people could even imagine, without incident.
There are people who've shot cops before that are concealed carry permit holders.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And the question is, officer safety is officer safety above the Second Amendment? Yes, it is. Yes, it absolutely is. If we're in an encounter, I have a lawful reason to stop you and detain you, and you have a gun, I'm not about to fight with you because you want to maintain your gun. If I tell you, hey, look, I'm gonna put your gun over here, then we're gonna do that, simply because, again, what's it worth to argue with this officer at the time of the stop? You know what I mean? Then you start to fight over your gun, maintain your gun, and now the officer pulls out his gun and shoots you because you didn't want to give it up, and now he's thinking you're reaching for a gun, trying to turn it on him. And so that's why I say, yes, officer safety is above that. Because think about what's one of the number one things we talk about. I just made a video about it today, is talking about compliance. Like, if you just comply with what the officers have to tell you, what they tell you to do. If you comply with them, then you'll walk away.
Yeah.
Why should I argue with you at that moment in time because you got a CCW And then not only will you, and here's the other thing is, let's say you argue with that officer on the stop, guarantee you there's going to be, you might find yourself getting your CCW revoked if that officer goes and reports and say, hey, look, he's not carrying a CCW responsibly. So is it worth you to even lose your right carry, you know what I mean, in that circumstance?
And you also don't know the details, right? So like, say you're legally carrying your firearm, you have a CCW, a police officer walks up to you, starts talking to you, out of the blue, right? Just pulls his cruiser over, walks up to you, starts talking to you, and then says, hey, I'm actually going to disarm you. I'm going to put it in my car, and then we can continue this conversation. You push back. Well, I'm not going to let you take my gun. Next thing you know, you guys are wrestling around. The officer knows you have a gun on you. He pulls his firearm, whatever happens, a shot's fired, right? Like, why even put yourself in that situation? Because the reality of that could have been someone called and said, hey, this person just shot my loved one. They're wearing black jeans blue jeans and a black t-shirt and a black hat. They see you matching the description somewhat minus the hat. They pull up, they're talking to you. They're still cool, but they're like, you know what? I'm going to disarm you. I'm going to figure out if you're this person. If you're not, I'm going to give you your firearm back. But the issue is we have so many people who are like, well, I don't need to do this. And it's like, relax. You don't know everything we're dealing with. We didn't roll up on you with our guns out, scream at you, get on the ground, all that, right? Like, just go with the flow, right? Like comply, like what Ryan said, comply with the situation because you don't always know.
Yep.
Yeah,
Anything else to add?
No, I was just going to say the idea is to avoid ratcheting up the odds of something terrible happening.
That's it.
Absolutely. You do that, everybody goes home. Well, Shea, man, I can't thank you enough, man. It is a true honor to have you on, man. I should have had you on a long time. We're gonna have Trevor on as well. Trevor also bring a lot of good insight too. If you guys are not doing so, I need you guys to follow my man business 88 Tactical. That is a phenomenal company. Make sure you guys follow 88 Tactical. And if you guys are listening to this in your car, literally it's just the number 88 in Tactical. There will be a Hell Hitler sign right next to it.
Get him, Shea. Choke him out, Shea.
We'll see you, Ryan.
Oh man, I just messing with you guys. Hey, you guys know this is a family podcast, and that's my brother Shea, so I can mess with him. But man, Shea is a phenomenal guy. His organization is phenomenal. Seriously, guys, you guys need to follow. This is, if you guys don't believe me, 88 Tactical will be one of the leading training companies in the world if it's not already. I promise you guys that within the next few years. So make sure you guys follow 88 Tactical. Shay's mad at me. I see him flexing now. He's like, you about to?
No, I was gonna say, you know, my girlfriend just happens to be brown, and in fact, Ryan
she looks like my sister, actually.
His sister, and she had said, if I am a white supremacist, I'm failing miserably.
You gotta do better. You gotta do better.
Oh man, no, I'm just messing with you guys, man. But Shea, man, I love you, man. Seriously, you're like a big brother to me. I appreciate everything you're doing. And somebody said it right here. This video doesn't have enough likes, laugh out loud. This is great. I will have to watch it more often. So appreciate you, 00-Hero, whoever that is. We appreciate you guys. Do us a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and with that, we'll see y'all next week.
Thanks,
and Billy's over there scrambling to hit the end button. He's like, "Oh shoot, you got to give me more time."
I wasn't ready. Oh my goodness, panic.
We'll see y'all next week. Peace. Stick around, Shea. Stick around.
Let him have it. Savage on the set. Oh no, it's the Bobo Ryan Tillman. Let him have it.